Welcome. It's Richard Flook, Guiding Healing Energetically, and today we have Chris Henderson. This is another podcast that we're doing with Chris. We did one with light earlier, LED lights, where we talk about these wonderful things, block blue lights and screens and glasses and wonderful stuff. So catch up on that one. It's amazing information. And today we're going to be talking about electromagnetic fields and really why should you be aware of these things. Oh, it's done something weird there, hasn't it? Of your mobile phone. And I'll just give you a little bit of why I think you'll like this straight away. The noise is on this thing. This is a meter that captures the sound. So I'll just switch my phone on, and we'll put it on data Wi-Fi. Oh, you can already see, look. I don't know whether you can see the amount that's gone up by.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's going
yeah,
to
what
the
a,
red now, Richard.
yeah, 100, 400. I mean, it's a heck of a lot, isn't it? Okay, if that's not enough, a good enough reason to watch this whole session, we're going to share with you why this is so important and what's actually going on. And I don't like this thing, so I'm actually going to have to. Well, it's still going on. You can still hear it in the background. Oh, gee. Okay, so bear with me a second.
Richard and I share an important friendship around which phones we use. We both got an old iPhone 6, and I try and get my clients to downgrade their phones, not get any of the new ones, but get a refurbed old one. And we can talk about why later.
It's crazy stuff. I'm just switching off my phone, and you could probably just about hear in the background. It's down to 0.5 now.
That's what we want.
Yeah, which is where you want it. We'll talk about why. So, hi, Chris. Welcome back.
G'day, mate. Thanks for having me again.
We're going to be talking about your amazing work you've done and what's been going on and why we talk in the way that we do and why do we... we're talking specifically about energy. We're talking about healing. We're talking about why electromagnetic fields, we're going to talk about what they are in a minute, so important to get out or manage or mitigate from your life. And why do people need to do that? Because I own a mobile phone. What's the problem? Doesn't hurt me. That's what most people say to me. My clients say, it's not a problem. And they talk like that actually in real life. No, they don't. I'm just but I think we need to understand, why are these things so challenging? Why is a Wi-Fi router so challenging? Why is a smart TV so challenging? Why is Bluetooth or Bluetooth earphones so challenging? Why is electrical wiring so challenging? Why the hell should I care? Okay, enough about me talking about that. First of all, before we get into the big why, especially when you're trying to heal, what are electromagnetic fields? Let's just give it a little bit of summary to that, and we'll go into more detail of it. But what are we talking about when we talk about electromagnetic fields? EMFs, for sure.
I think, Richard, the most important starting point is to understand that as humans, our systems are electrical beings. We're not just a bag of salt water or chemicals, like the modern world, medical world tells us. We're actually, our cells create charge, a real electrical charge, and run off that. And obviously a modern phenomena of information has been about grounding, right? Get on the ground with bare feet. Why? Because that helps charge your cells. You're taking a very low electromagnetic pulse, very low. Schumann resonance, is it 7.6 hertz or something around that, 7.8 hertz. That's a very low signal, but that helps charge our body. So what we're saying is that mobile phone frequencies, even wiring frequencies, electromagnetic frequencies from technology that are modern, run off millions and millions of times of that. So for example, a Wi-Fi router, like you said, is 6 billion hertz a second, or 5 billion hertz a second if it's a 5 gigahertz router. So that's 5 billion hertz going, that pulse. whereas the Earth's frequency that helps heal us is 7.6 or 8 hertz a second, right? It's very low compared to 6 billion or 5 billion or 2.5 billion. It's almost like getting shot with it is getting shot with like an X-ray, right? That's how they use microwave frequencies as X-rays. So I guess we have to understand by nature of us being electromagnetic, that's why it affects us, because we're electromagnetic beings.
Let me just interject there and just give a little bit of the science behind this, which is what Chris is talking about. 7.8 hertz to around 10 hertz is the Schumann resonance. It's called Schumann after the guy who basically found out about it. And this is the frequency of how the Earth and the ionosphere bounces off a frequency. And that's natural. That's what we've grown up with. That's who we are as beings, as people, and animals and insects and all life is governed by this frequency. It's been around for millennia, and that ironically also coincides with the frequency of our limbic brain, which is a piece right in the center of our brain. And this basically goes inside and outside every single 7.8 to 10 times a second, going, is everything okay outside? Yes, it's okay. Is everything okay outside? Yes, it's okay. Is everything okay outside? Yes, it's okay. Every 8 to 10 times a second. Now, this is the important point. It's electrical. It's happening all the time. Now, just suddenly you bounce in a load of other frequencies going in to incredibly high frequencies. Is everything okay? Oh, I can't handle this. That's what's going on inside your cells all the time. So yes, it's vitally important. And earthing is another thing. The Earth is negative in as far as the energy coming off of Mother Earth. So we are essentially electrical. In fact, when you talk about energy, it's all about that. Right. Enough. That's it. I think that's enough.
But just to add to you, when people talk about, just for example, pH, people understand pH as chemistry, right? But no, it's
that's alkalinity and acidity, right?
Yeah, but it's really a proxy for voltage, and that's not understood or known by us who get taught, grade 8, 9, and 10 science. We're all just a bag of chemicals. But another thing, just like I said on the lighting podcast webinar, is that all of this research exists. It's in an old dusty library with cobwebs all over it. It's already done. Look, you can look you can go to PubMed, right? You go to PubMed right now and put in 50 hertz electromagnetic field in Epstein-Barr, right? 50 hertz is the frequency coming from the wiring in your walls. That can reactivate Epstein-Barr syndrome. That's not me fluffing air out of my mouth. That's in PubMed. You just need to go and research it. It's all there.
So Epstein-Barr, for those people who don't know what that is a form of chronic fatigue syndrome. And it's fascinating because... Sorry?
What causes it, right?
Yeah, they call it a virus, but essentially it's the reaction from an overload of electromagnetic fields. And it was amazing. There was this whole thing called yuppie flu when I was in my 20s, and people were falling over left, right, and center with Epstein-Barr syndrome. And essentially what was introduced to everybody at that time, not these small things, they were much bigger than that for many people who don't know. Mobile phone technology came in at that time, including Wi-Fi. And so people were dropping like flies because the body needed to react to that.
Exactly.
There we go.
Exactly, Richard. And there's Richard, the reference to that is The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg, who's virtually, talk about you loving your citations. His book's about that thick and half of it is full of citations. And he's basically highlighted how different stages of our recent history, when certain electromagnetic technologies have been introduced, there was major flus, pandemics, et cetera, just like we spoke about in our last podcast. So it's like, and now, coming forward all these years, we now have a major new emerging technology the last 2 or 3 years in 5G, which is now the new buzzword. But my story was I got really sick when I went to Melbourne. I'd never been into a major city. I live in a country town. I went there for 10 days and all my autoimmune um, symptoms flared up again. And that's when I met our colleague Cyril, who's an electrical engineer. And he said, you need to go back and study the whole about electricity. Go look at epidemiological studies on when they roll the power grid out and cancer. Go back to the start and then come to the forward to the future. And I really believe you don't understand what's going on now unless you understand the past. And a big part of that past is understanding who's behind these technologies. For example, your mobile phone, for instance, like Richard was showing you, has different antennas on it. That has 5 antennas on it, Richard. Back in 1997, they did studies on a 1 antenna Nokia or Ericsson phone, and they showed that holding that 10 inches from the body, 10 mil or 1 centimeter from the body for 6 minutes starts the microwave heating effect in your cells. That was in 1997. They have not replicated that on this because it would fail. And most people aren't aware that those studies were done. And most people aren't aware that even in your phone, it tells you not to hold it against the body.
Yeah.
Because you start that microwave heating effect microwave.
It has it in the legal status. In fact, you might be able to look it up. But I think what we got to do is just go into a bit of the theory, because we've gone to Arthur Firstingberg's work, and they didn't have mobile phones then. It wasn't a problem. No, but they had telegraph, right? And they had wires. And if you look at it, he's got some pictures in that book, which are amazing. Maybe I'll just pick one out. And of just in New York, of the telegraphic wires, the telephone wires, because every single house had one wire. And so in the cities, you would see hundreds of wires going backwards and forwards for one individual house. Now, you may say, well, what's the problem with that? Every time you put an electrical charge through a wire, you create a field around it. Okay? Yeah. Now, that could be a small electrical charge, as in a couple of volts. So let's just talk about voltage. If you take one of your pen batteries, and we'll go on to the meters in a minute. Go into a pen battery, that is 1.5 volts. And the other bigger ones you have are, say, 9 volts. And these are direct currents. So I'll show you a 9-volt battery here. So that's your 9-volt battery. Because some people are unaware of the voltages and all this sort of other stuff. Now, what's going through your wires in your household in North America, so that's Canada and actually Japan and also America, and I think some of South America as well, is the voltage is 110 volts to 120 volts. In Europe, where I live, in the UK, it's 240 volts. 220 to 240. So that's like 100 of these, basically. Actually more than that. Around that anyway. What's the voltage in
240, yeah.
240. So it's the same in Australasia. Now, why is this significant? Is because, like I said, every single time you put a voltage through a wire, you create a field around it. If you remember, and I might put a thing there, there is this sort of magnetic field. You probably, as a young kid at school, put a electrical field through a wire and then poured iron filings over, and you've got this beautiful pattern. That's what's going on. Now, the problem with that is this disrupts that electrical field inside the cell. Okay. Next piece on from that, that's just the electrical fields going through wires. But what's all this garbage and stuff around electromagnetic fields showing up in mobile phones? So we have to make a distinction between the two. Both of them are damaging, but there are some other factors. And which way do you want to go, Chris? Do you want to go into phone technology, Wi-Fi, microwave technology, or do you want to go into the wiring technology first? Which one is going to be better?
I think maybe we what's obviously most when I guess when I go to someone's house, I virtually lay it all out. I lay my meters out. I tell them where we're going to start, and usually I start with testing their wiring in their house and show them the electrical field coming from the wiring, and they see it. They're usually most clients have a bed with two electrical points either side of the bed, so they can have lamps on, and I show them how that electrical field is coming out 3 or 4 meters through the bed, and if they've got like an inner spring mattress, the inner springs will take that field and bring it up through them, and all night you've got this electrical field coming through you. And if people listen to our last podcast or webinar, I mentioned that Wi-Fi and EMFs are a form of light, so it's a light disruption that the body picks up. It's like a field of light your body can't see, it can't sense, and it's just constantly pulsing through you all night. No wonder we can't sleep. And again, I did say that affects melatonin as well, Richard, like we said. So just simply going to your bedroom and seeing where your bed is situated is a big start, because I've had clients that we turn the power off to their bedroom, literally turn the power off, and they sleep like a baby the next night.
We turn the power off every night, apart from the fridge and some other small things, every night. Can you believe that?
Every night.
It's
every
every
night.
night.
I told you on the last talk, I just had a client. She's a teacher. She cannot sleep in her bedroom. She has the Wi-Fi router in another room on behind her head and the electrical field from her wiring on behind her head. She switched those two things off, and within 2 days, she had the best sleep she had in 3 months.
But why 2 days? Shouldn't it happen instantaneous? People say, well, why 2 days?
Well, your body has to catch up. Like sometimes people actually start feeling sick and unwell because the body goes deeper and deeper into detox at night, like we spoke about in the last webinar. You need to go into REM sleep to detox your cells and the faulty cells and replace the cells. Okay, you finally go into that
RNA release, which is a virus. It isn't a virus. It's actually a messaging molecule released by the cells to tell the other cells, look, there's we've got.
That's what could be happening to them. They haven't done that in a long time, and you take away this field that has been stopping them getting into sleep, and they actually get ill for a couple of days. They go, "You made me sick." I say, "No, you're just detoxing. Your body is getting rid of those malfunctioning cells, and you haven't done it enough in a while, and it's hit you that way." Some people just go into dream states and dream like really vividly, crazy magical dreams, and they haven't dreamt in ages. And that's another thing you got to bring up, because the client will go, "Oh, I go to sleep. I sleep well." I go, "Do you dream?" "No, I don't dream it at all." I said, "Well, you're not in REM sleep. You can get better sleep. You need to be in REM sleep. That's the dream state and the repair state."
REM sleep is absolutely important. So is delta. In other words, your body will not heal unless you're in that very, very deep delta frequency. Now that's a bit complicated, but most of us live in what is called beta. Alpha is this 10 hertz, which is the same as the limbic brain, which is the same as the Schumann resonance. Beta is up a lot higher, so it's about anything from 20 to 30 times a second that we're running. Like we're probably running on beta now, completely normal during the day. Then there's alpha, beta, delta, and gamma, isn't that? And there's one in between there. Theta is dream state. Okay, that's about 3 to 5 hertz, and then it goes down to about 2 hertz. If I've got this wrong, it's important.
But that's what you're saying, Richard. That's what you're saying, Richard. That hertz, right? You mentioned you need to be running at a certain hertz, and we throw all these other frequencies in and disrupt them, just like you said before.
Yeah, it's crazy, crazy stuff.
And if you have clients coming to you and go, "Oh, what do I have to do this for?" Well, just start at sleep. Do you want to get better sleep? Would you like a better night's sleep?
Yeah, I think when let's just go off into sleep slightly. Why bother? Surely people, they can live off 1 or 2 hours of sleep a night.
I've heard some people I've met like that, and they're just burning at a different rate. But most people, let's talk about the realms that we're all in as chronic disease. Most people we're talking to have cancers, have autoimmune diseases, have chronic Lyme disease or something like that. You need every second of sleep you can get, virtually, because when you get up, your body is in a compromised state already. So for all those people, that's absolutely imperative. They need to look at EMFs. And our friend Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt, who's very espoused functional medicine doctor, German American, he does not work with anyone unless they clean up the EMFs. That's the start of his protocols. Clean that up, because he's tested control groups of clients where one cleans the EMF up, one doesn't. One relapses with their Lyme, the other one gets better.
Yeah, in fact, if Dr. Klinghardt has done a lot of work with autistic children, I've met him; he's a lovely guy. Nice. He when he's working with autistic children, he tells them that the parents have to mitigate all the EMFs, including the wiring, the Wi-Fi, the phones, everything, and gets the autistic child to wear T-shirts and pants that have special material in them. In fact, I own some of this stuff as well for when I'm been flying. This is just, I mean, it sounds crazy, but he says what he finds that if the child does not do that, or if the parents don't do that for the child doesn't heal. Okay? Crazy stuff there.
And it sounds crazy, but Richard, I think it's like we started with this. What is the fundamental power of the body? It's charge, it's electromagnetics, it's signals. We've got lots of signals going on. When the body's taking in that mitochondria you talk about is like a virtually antenna to take in the signals from the environment. That's all tuned into nature. That's all tuned into those really, the human resonance. That's how we're made. All this crap wasn't around 1,000 years ago, and now we put in all these incoherent signals. Just imagine that. You're just getting all these incoherent signals bombarding you. Your body's going to be suffering. It's going to be malfunctioning. All the natural signals are getting crowded out, but all these incoherent signals. So the more of that new technology you have around you, it's virtually your body is struggling to signal to do all the functions it needs and is designed to do.
So let's just go back. The first thing you do when you work with a client is you look at the field going through a wire in their walls. And I want to talk briefly about that. There's this wire. This is a two-pronged wire, which actually normally cancels itself out as far as the field is concerned, but it still creates a magnetic field and an electrical field, two separate things. The magnetic field is the same that comes out of what we call those wall warts, the computer laptop charger. Those are nasty, but the field actually drops around about a foot away. But you don't want to be living near any of those types of things. So if you've got a clock radio right next door to your bed, that has one of these transformers in it, and that's, if it's close to your head, that's going to disrupt this beautiful electrical field in your body.
Exactly. If you let's look at, okay, you always start in the bedroom. Okay, you got electrical field. I want that turned off. Take away the alarms. Generally what also is occurring there is cordless phones in the bedroom. If you measure cordless phones, they're almost as bad as mobile phones.
I think they're worse because they're always on.
They're always on. They're always transmitting the signal. I have an interesting story with my mother. When I first learned about EMFs, my mother, God bless her, she's always done what I've told her when I've found something out in the health realm. And when I was told about mobile phones, I told her, look, I think that's got something to do with your heart palpitations, when you're in bed, because she had the phone right next to her receiving. And what happened, Richard, that week is the telephone points got hit by lightning and fried all the phones. So we just got an old corded phone, and she never had any heart palpitations again in bed.
People have no idea, those lovely microwave phones that you walk around and, give you about 100 feet, 30 meters of distance that are cordless. Horrible. I mean, you think, I don't use my mobile phone anywhere near me. I keep that a foot away because most people are a little bit wise now. But those things are insane.
Yes, they are. But so if I see any of them, If I see any of them, we get rid of them, you know.
Um,
So all we're trying to do is clean things up. I see it as a pollution. So I'm just cleaning this up, and the space I want to clean up is the bedroom mainly. So electrical circuit off, cordless phones out, mobile phones off at night, Wi-Fi off at night. Again, like I said, these inharmonious frequencies, we want them off, and then we can get into better sleep state.
So let's just talk about that as well, because I know that there are lots of men, and the women seem to get this stuff pretty quickly. But I've had problems with men, particularly saying, "I'm not switching off my phone at night," and I'm sorry, but they actually do talk like that. Oh, what? It's a load of garbage. And then I turned around to the man who's been maybe I'm working with and said, "Why won't you just switch it off?" And they go, "So someone might call." And I say, "Has anybody ever called?" No, no. So why do you need
How
it?
did we how did we exist in 1995? How did we exist 30? Is that 30 years ago? That's 30 years ago. I remember in 1995, I was a kid. I was 15. Mate, I didn't even remember my home phone number with that client. He's got a home phone. He's got a home phone. You know, generally most people still have a home phone that's connected to a copper wire. In Australia, they're getting us to ditch all them. They're putting our phones through the router, right?
Yeah,
So
well,
when you
we
turn
have
everything
one of
off,
those.
the phone is off, right? We're trying to keep people, let's save our copper lines. But it's like you're still safe. You're still safe with your home phone. People can still ring your home phone, right? It's just this weird conditioning. It's been a perfect conditioning process, a psychological operation, and look, forget it, mate. Both of us, we're still addicted because I mean, if I lose that, I go apeshit. I mean, like, oh, I've lost it. Where is it? You
Oh,
know,
I don't. It's only because you've got all your details in there. I don't have them in there.
I've got my cards in there. Yeah,
The,
yeah.
the phone's
But
useful, but yeah.
just like, yeah, just so you're saying, you get clients won't do the simplest things, but I think it's like more education. And again, we'll probably mention this at the end. We built a course. There's a very simple course that we built that really gets people self-learning. And I think another part of that, Richard, is a lot of these guys, they don't want to be told what to do. I mean, I don't want another guy to tell me what to do. I'm subservient to you now. Richard told me to turn the phone off. But if I get them self-learning and they come to their own epiphany, then I think that's very powerful if they come to their own realization.
So let's just talk a little bit about a bit more about the why. We've got some theory, and then we're going to talk about how we can do this, and the little bit more why. But we covered sort of the inside those. I'm looking down here because that's where my computer power supply is. There's a magnetic field. You don't want to be anywhere near that. Then there's also an electrical field. You don't want to be anywhere near that too. And actually, I could just prove that to people on this is what is called a Cornet meter. It's very useful. On the Cornet meter, it actually shows us what are called magnetic fields and also electrical fields. So I'm just going to take the power supply off my computer here. And this is the power supply here. And this is the meter. And as I bring it closer, this is the power supply. It's only 19 volts. And you can see what is the reading there? I can't quite see it.
0.06.
No, it's gone.
It?
It's 54.
There you
Oops,
go.
lighting's
You've got
gone.
to switch it to magnetic field.
Yeah, it is. No, this is electrical field. So there's an electrical field coming off of this, just this wire. So you don't want to be anywhere really near that. It's about a foot away. If I now go over to what is called magnetic fields, you're also getting a magnetic field. I think it's up here is the field. Yeah, it's up in the orange, right?
Yeah, that's
I've
right. It's
got
moved
to
up. Yeah, moved up into the orange.
Yeah. So these,
Yep.
you just don't want to be around that. You don't want to sleep next door to that. You don't want to be close to any of that at all. And I think I've just buggered my power supply. Oh, that's going to work in a second. Whatever.
Richard, I think I interrupted you. We were moving into chatting about Wi-Fi. I think that's where you wanted to go.
Yeah, so I
Um,
think now let's talk about Wi-Fi because we've covered those things. Now let's talk about Wi-Fi. Let's talk about Bluetooth, and then we'll get on to these things which are really challenging to manage. Oh, over to you.
So Wi-Fi is an interesting thing. Wi-Fi was designed by our Australian Science Department of the government called the CSIRO. And virtually they designed it so we could have these frequencies in air, and they could develop them, into, corporate size systems. Now we have, Wi-Fi in the homes. You've got Wi-Fi Max in the shopping centers. You can go in and just turn into the Wi-Fi. Major issue with it is that it's virtually pumping out the same frequency that your microwave oven is. It's 2.5 gigahertz, 2.5 gigahertz frequency, pulsing all the time. And I did a lot of research into this, Richard, and there's studies in Australia by Professor Trevor Marshall showed that 2.5, or sorry, such virtually the mobile phone frequency all the way up to Wi-Fi stopped the receptors on the cells from taking up vitamin D into the body. That deep of the physiology. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So that's a big part of it. I guess in terms of Wi-Fi, when I first started looking into this, when I was starting my health coaching business, there was the ABC, which is the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. A journalist did a show called Wi-Fried in 2018, I think it was, or 17. And this was actually discussing some of the issues with Wi-Fi. They'd had a big cancer cluster in one of the radio stations in Brisbane. And on the top of that, they were trying to give people more education. Within 2 days of that show airing, she was fired. They fired the journalist. And I was going, wow, there must be something someone's trying to hide with this, right? And with the CSIRO, they also had a scientist, a chief scientist called Dr. McDonald, who was electrosensitive to Wi-Fi. And he had a contract with the government. And somewhere down along the line, that was forgotten. And this is in Australia, there was a big push in academia, in universities, to push out Wi-Fi, build it all out into the university campuses, and bring in iPads, so to change how students learnt. And Dr. Cooper was electrosensitive and sued the government for polluting his workspace, and won in 2016 because he was getting polluted by Wi-Fi. So what I'm trying to get at, Richard, if you've won a court case against the government for getting basically polluted by Wi-Fi, that's an admittance, right, of an issue. And what's more to that is that Lloyd's of London, the biggest underwriter in the world, excluded damages by microwave radiation to the public. They brought in an exclusion to their policies. So virtually you can get, and also just so you know, in Queensland, in the criminal code of Queensland where I live, you can be assaulted by an electrical field. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
So
No.
what's happening is we're polluting and assaulting each other with these Wi-Fi signals. And a colleague of mine recently did some testing in Sydney and saw that the major EMF pollution was Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's
So I don't know
crazy.
I don't know if I've expressed that how you wanted to. I've sort of gone around. That proves to me there's a problem with the product, and we're not being told about it.
I
If
think
you work for
actually,
the government,
yeah,
if you work for the government, the federal government, you have a safety net from being injured by this product. I call the product. Us plebs and lower, bottom feedings, as they see us, they excluded us from it 4 years ago because insurers sniff the wind. If you want to know where problems are, you go to the insurance industry and you see what they're backing out of, because they know there's a tide coming of injury that they don't want to be part of.
I think there's one way to just explain Wi-Fi that will hit
Yeah,
people
go on.
very well.
I might not have hit that very well, so yeah,
Yeah,
fire
no,
away.
it's another way that just makes people go, wake up. So we all know about what happened in Germany and the way that Hitler just, took various things and gassed people. Well, at the same time, the UK government were doing some experiments, and they were saying, well, we can't gas people, that's really bad. But it's all about the eugenics society. So what they found out was that there was a specific frequency or a set of frequencies that if they could use those on people, it would make them sterile. And of course, eugenics is all about making undesirables sterile. And by the way, you, me, and everybody who doesn't work for the government or isn't a multi-billionaire or whatever is an undesirable, because eugenics is all about just keeping a group of individuals that are supposedly more clever and smarter because they got loads of money alive, right? And don't believe me, just look up eugenics. Anyway, so what they did with these people was that they would irradiate the ovaries and the testicles of these individuals, and it would make them sterile. Now, you may just go on, let's go on a little bit further, and we look at some of these countries that have an enormous infrastructure of mobile phone networks and mobile phones, and their their fertility rates are dropping so fast that you cannot get, or they can't get enough young people being produced to carry on the tax threshold to run that country. Get a load of that. This is just insane.
It's super insane. And
this is why the recommendation is never, ever, ever put this thing next door in your back pocket or by your side pocket, let alone on your top pocket. Oh, it's just, because you're irradiating your ovaries, your testicles, and if you want to talk about breasts, there are women who they put the mobile phone next door to their breast because it's comfortable and easy to carry that thing. They're getting tumors just where the areoles are. I talk about it in the book. Anyway.
And remember, Richard, that 97 had one aerial, right? This has got 5 aerials in it, multi-directional aerials, right? So if it started to microwave the skin after 6 minutes of a one antenna phone, one aerial phone, what's that doing on a half-an-hour call like that, against your brain, or it's in here when you've got the aerials on? So me and Richard are big on turning the bloody thing off. Turn it off. When you're not using it, it's a big thing. And when you are using it, I have a set of these earphones. These are air tubes. So these have hollow tubes. So there's no electrical field going into the ear. It's about 1 meter long. And every time I make a mobile call, it's 1 meter away from me. 1 meter away from me is thousands of times less radiation than here. And you wonder why. Apple have they're basically got no liability. They're telling you Apple's telling you, but no one's the phone company doesn't tell you. Actually, got to bring this up in the course that we've done, which we'll tell people about. There was a mobile phone a phone shop like a T-Mobile or whatever, selling mobile phones from a retail mobile phone store, that started to print out the legal section of the mobile phone and put it in the window to tell people what they should do. Guess what? They got contacted by the FCCC, told to take that down, or they'd be shut down.
Yeah, they don't want people to be well. Let's be absolutely. And the people that govern all of this, they think they're doing the right thing. Again, it's just
definitely what you said. Definitely eugenics. And our colleague Cyril Burke, who's the EMF expert colleague, who you'll probably get on a call. When I met him, he taught me more about this subject, because when I was sick in Melbourne and really turned my life around in that regard, I got him to do a talk with a health group or a group of my clients. And I thought, I was a bit nervous, Richard, because, pre-COVID, I was a little bit more conservative than I am now. And I wondered how he'd start his talk. Well, what he had was the emblems of two mobile phone tower producing companies, the companies that produce the tower. And he said, look at that emblem. What does it look like? It's a reverse uterus. It's an upside down uterus. That was the emblem for the company.
So Chris, the light for Chris was going down, so I asked him to move. So we were talking about the whole legal stuff about, even you think the authorities would be going, oh, it's mobile phone technology is wrong. In fact, I think even the European Union, is it a European Union? No, it's the World Health Organization, which is totally corrupt, by the way, through their IARC, which I don't know exactly what that means, but they have a group of scientists. They even went out and they looked at mobile phone technology, and they basically said that mobile phone technology, Wi-Fi technology, towers and the like are a class 2B carcinogen. They would have said it was a 1A, which is the worst possible carcinogen. But most of the scientists on that group are funded by the telecom industry.
That's right, Richard. I think there's also, because in the course there's a slide there, there's Professor Watson, who was in the WHO, who virtually, I think he took himself away from that group and we've got a statement from him in the course that says that if they did reevaluate and test this as per, the early 90s or the late 90s when they did the mobile phone testing, I mentioned that it would be a 1A carcinogen if today's technology is reevaluated. So they're not going to do it.
No, they're not going to do it because there's the whole infrastructure, there's shops, there's people making billions, if not trillions, out of these things worldwide. And there are some benefits to this. Let's be absolutely truthful.
Of course.
The connectivity.
Well, look at us. We're talking on it now, but we're hardwired.
Yeah, I think that's let's talk about some solutions. I still think we need to go into Wi-Fi 2.4 gigahertz. And then most people are unaware of that. Then they go, but I got 5G on my Wi-Fi. No, you don't. You have it transmitting at 5 gigahertz. What's going on in the phones then? Talk about that. What's actually happening? You talking about 5 antennas. So tell people a bit more about that.
So Richard and I share an iPhone, which is Android drives me nuts, but on the on that front screen there, most people are pretty well aware of. That's where you turn things on and off. And 1, 2, 3. There's 3 antennas there. There's Wi-Fi on. There's Bluetooth. There's the phone on, and the network's on. And in the settings of your phone, you also have location services, which is GPS. So that's your 5 antennas. Most people have all of those running on their phone all the time, right? And the problem with the iPhone is that people think they can turn it off. Sorry, I've got onto another screen. People think that just by using that the buttons on that it turns it off. It does not turn it off. Virtually, that's a model. A feature of the iPhone. iPhone always wants to connect with different devices, with the watch, with the other Bluetooth antennas. You virtually have to go to the settings in your phone, and go to where you can see Wi-Fi and Bluetooth there, and turn it off from the settings.
Let's just show. I'll show people on my phone exactly what happens. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to let's turn on Bluetooth, and as it goes on, you see it's gone blue there. Right now, as I press it again, thinking I've switched it off, look, it stays white, which means that Bluetooth is still running. It's not connecting, but it's still running in the background. You haven't switched it off. Now, why is that significant? It's because Bluetooth uses 2.4 gigahertz. And most people have these Bluetooth headphones, which they connect up.
Crazy,
they're really popular now, especially with the kids. What's happening is you are sending from your phone, which is next door to your testicles or your ovaries or your breasts, right? Or any of your body, even your heart.
You see that?
No, I can't. This is it's a Bluetooth headphones, one of those in-ear ones. Yeah.
So it's all up at 100 microwatts per meter there.
Yeah.
Right into the red. That's a client I had last week. She virtually threw them out. when she
Yeah.
saw that.
I had some Bluetooth stuff. I threw it out. I can. This is on now, and I can feel it. So let's just see if we can actually get a. Yep, there's nothing else going on here, and the meter's just pulsating. See that?
Yeah,
Now that's going into your brain. Imagine if you're a kid and you
that's
go,
we got
yeah,
to
and
talk
this
about
is
that
this
because
is
that's why you
supposedly
mentioned that.
off, by the way. That's
Yeah,
supposedly off. I'll switch it on so you can hear. It's nice to actually hear
yeah,
sound. That's supposedly off. Yeah, it's going
it's
on
not.
all the
Yeah, look at
time.
it pulsing.
Now, if I go into the settings screen,
Hmm.
okay, oh gee, and it says Bluetooth not connected. Can you see that?
Yep,
In order to switch off that noise, oh, look at that! I'm just going into that bit, and it's like gone crazy.
Bluetooth's still on.
Oh, gee,
It's still
switch
on,
it off.
Richard.
There it goes. I actually switch it
Yeah,
off in the settings. Now
that's
imagine
right.
that's going on into your brain all the time. It's going dee, 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 dee. Now
So
you
I had
may,
a yeah.
oh, that's
Go
nothing
ahead.
wrong
I
with
was just
that.
going to say I had a client who couldn't sleep, and I come to test her phone, and she had an Android phone. It was a dual SIM phone, so it had two carriers in there. And for some reason, I could not. I was trying every setting. I couldn't turn the frequency off. I couldn't turn it off. She thought it was off, and she was sleeping with it, and she couldn't sleep. I said, "You have to turn the phone off. Physically turn the power off." She did that. 3 days later, she rang up and said she slept and dreamt for the first time in months. So you have to try this, folks. It sounds crazy. We've already, I think we've given you enough understanding why you might want to turn it off. And one thing I wanted to add there, when Richard, you talked about there's so much money in this industry now. Apparently, the industry went to the military in the early 70s to get the data on microwave radiation and biology, and they said, "Look, we have the data. It does, it does have biological effects and harm, but you're going to have to make a decision here. Okay. If you want to go into the third and fourth industrial revolution of technology, you're going to have to use this product and put a cap on its limitations." And what you just mentioned there with WHO and IARC is basically setting the standards so high. So just to give you an idea, I talk about France in my talks a lot because at least you guys have standards in the European Union which take in what they call a precautionary effect or the precautionary principle. So that means that you guys don't have Wi-Fi in your kindies or your, primary schools.
Yeah, but
Why
this
is
has
that?
recently been changed because Macron actually said no,
Okay,
stuff that
so
during
he's
COVID. I
changed
think
it.
he wrote all of it out.
Well, that's no good. But just so you know, our standards are 1,000 times higher here than you have in Europe. So
Yeah.
virtually they can put anything on at any power, at any intensity, and virtually, they were given the choice. Do you harm humans or do you make a dollar? And you know, filthy lucre, mate, always wins.
Well, you can corrupt everything. We just have to look at certain individuals, and we won't go there because this is just
But even the Bible verse, it says, the love of money. Money's not evil; it's the love of it. There's individuals that love money more than life.
yeah, it's addiction, and that's the problem. I think most people understand what happens with addiction.
Mm.
This is really dark, and I talk about that in the first chapter of the book, The Dark, and where that all comes from. And yeah, let's not go down that avenue because
No,
it,
no.
it really can
We were
be.
we wanted to go into solutions, and
Well, we want
what
to go
we
into
do.
solutions. I think
Yeah,
there's one other
yeah.
area that we need to talk about is the mobile phone towers, cell phone towers. Let's just talk a little bit about that. Now, I could tell
Mm.
people a small story, and you could share some stuff. So, why are mobile phone towers, cell phone towers, a challenge?
Well, usually the telephone companies that are constructing them have laws and legislations around how close you really should be to them, and usually that's a 500 meters or a kilometer, because that frequency, um, virtually, I work with a physicist, and he's come over from, should you say, the dark side. He used to work in nuclear power, and in nuclear power, they say ionizing radiation is very harmful for people. and non-ionizing radiation is safe.
Well, we need
it's
to
not
just
it's,
define that for people. What is
yeah, it's good.
non-ionizing and what is ionizing? Just go. So
Maybe
think actually we
maybe
can do it very simply. Nuclear
yeah.
radiation is ionizing, which basically it strips electrons off of the cell and the body, causing severe destruction. Non-ionizing radiation. Over to you.
Yeah, obviously that it's the antithesis of that. It's not as destructive, but the problem with this technology is that over time it degrades us over time. So it's not just, you're not going to be like the Hulk and turn into a zombie or whatever, but it's actually accumulative, and it might be less power or whatever. And usually they say, oh, it's not enough power to do anything, but the scientists have proven that over time it slowly degrades the nervous system, degrades like the neurotransmitters, affects hormones, etc., etc. So what we're seeing is we're seeing towns now, because of the, I guess, Richard, not to get convoluted, but the reason why we need more and more towers is because of data. Is because you use that phone not like a telephone, how it was designed to, but you use it as an information source, you use it as a banking tool. That's why we need all this data and more towers, because we need more and more frequencies to carry more and more data. And we're virtually feeding this. We're feeding the need for more and more towers. And so if phone towers are an issue, if you're close to them, within 500 meters, I would be looking to move from that, because that's way too close. I have also, if you're in the line of sight of a tower, I've had clients where they can't grow any vegetables anymore in line of sight of a tower, right? And it's in our course, and I'm talking about the course a lot, but we did this test for the course where my friend put all his vegetables in a Faraday cage to protect the seedlings, and they came out really straight, nice green beans, and the ones that are exposed line of sight to the tower frequency were all gnarled and twisted, and actually had a DNA effect on the growing beans. It's absolutely crazy in a line of sight to the tower where we are here. So get out of line of sight. The thing is, most people, depending on where you are, you can find a website that'll tell you what towers are close to your house. I think, talking about, I guess, solutions, you can get paint that shields, from the frequencies coming into the house. You can have silver threaded material and Faraday cage to sleep in. There are different options for that, but again, it would all depend on people's symptoms, Richard, and how sick they are.
Yeah, I
That's
think
how I do it.
I worked with a client up in the Netherlands who was complaining of she didn't sleep, she had severe headaches, was the heart palpitations, all classic electromagnetic field or non-ionizing radiation microwave poisoning, because that's what it is. All symptoms: tinnitus, heart palpitations, problems with eyesight, deterioration of skin rashes, headaches, brain fog, low energy symptoms similar to electromagnetic fields. Well, that's all basically what it is. And I got her to just look outside of a bedroom window, and within about 150 to 200 meters. So what's that? It's same in yards, let's say.
Way within the 500-meter limit.
Yeah, well, there's the research shows that within 300 meters of living within a mobile phone tower, the chances of you developing a cancer increases sixfold or threefold or something. I mean, it's just crazy.
Richard, I was going to say, the physicist that we work with that was from the non-ionizing profession, he had his epiphany when he was working at a university here in Brisbane, where he was called to a campus, part of the campus, where they had a cancer cluster. And he said, I don't think there's going to be a problem. When he had the meter, he could not believe what he was reading. What he was virtually in was a hotspot, a divergence of frequencies from towers that were all around that campus, but converging into that one spot. And it's called a hotspot.
I had probably something very similar. The guy next door to where I was living in a wooden house. This is in Canada. And this is really how extreme I had to go. I couldn't function. I was listening to radio stations. I had to get rid of my amalgam fillings out of my head because it was driving me insane. Tinnitus continuously, brain fog, heart palpitations. And I was a heavy user of mobile phone technology. I would take the dog for a walk and speak to people. I then found out that we were in 3 cross sections of mobile phone towers. And I started looking on the towers. This is before 5G came in, and suddenly they started adding more and more and more and more antennas. I could see it physically. I could see it on the literature. And basically, my wife turned around to me and said, "What's happening to you?" And I said, "I can't function." We started shielding our bedroom, which we'll talk about shielding in bedrooms in a moment as one of the solutions. We shielded our bedroom. For the first time in about 5 years, I actually slept in my bed. It was absolutely crazy. It's because the next door neighbor, I always joke that he had a very small wiener. But basically, he had one of those Wi-Fi routers in the room that was right opposite this wooden framed house, our bedroom, and it had about, I don't know, 5 or 6 antennas. I know this because the other next door neighbor said that's what he has because he likes sports. And I asked him, "Could you just switch it off at night? You don't need it." And he did it one night, and there was a massive magnetic storm that night. He says, "Oh, I couldn't sleep that night, so no, I'm not going to do it. And the computers need to update." No word of a lie. And I said, "What?" I couldn't understand it, but whatever. So we shielded the room, and there's ways that you can do that. And I was able to sleep, right, for the first time in 5 years. So I would get up in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep and go into another room, which was further away from this Wi-Fi router. My wife was okay, but I was very, very sensitive. And my resolution and my way of dealing with that was to move my whole family to Europe, into the country.
And a stone house. Beautiful stone house that doesn't get any signal.
Well, we do now because they put another tower here, so we're going to have to find another solution. But you
Richard,
know,
this is the most challenging thing because people go, "Oh, what do I do? I got all these towers." Yeah, look, just don't get too overwhelmed. Control the things you can do, which is your mobile phone usage, which is turning your Wi-Fi off at night, which is turning
that's the big one,
which is turning your power off at night, and then potentially you may need a shield bedroom. And I feel that they're the major things, along with the blue light mitigation. People start to do that, sleep will come back online, and they'll be able to have more tolerance for what they need to do out in that world where you can't control. And I think that's the big takeaway for this issue, you know, because you don't want to add another thing that people go, "Oh, I just feel too overwhelmed." That's why we built the course, because we wanted to educate you over 4 or 5 hours in a course, so you could make the decision for yourself. You know, don't believe me. Get all the facts, get all the ways you can mitigate and choose. And especially, I think we bypass this, but for your children, because developing children absorb all of this radiation, right? Their brains absorb it, their bodies absorb it much more than adults. And if you don't do it for anyone, do it for your kids, you know?
I think the link for the course is in the show notes. And it's a fantastic course, and you did it with a doctor as well, so it isn't like some people, but a real
that's right. And that
naturopathic
doctor. And our doctor's a mold specialist, and he sort of tapped me on the shoulder, and he saw some of my work. He said, "Look, I've been looking through the literature, right, the scientific literature, because it exists, that EMFs interact with viruses, bacteria, mold, and make it more virulent, make it more aggressive. Okay, what do we need to do to help educate people to reduce that as they're healing from their mold illness, etc." So, teamed up with the doctor to, because people still like to, they hear doctors involved and they go, "Okay, validation."
There's some doctors who are fantastic, and was it Sandeep?
Dr. Sandeep Gupta, yeah, he's a pretty prominent mold specialist.
So it's all there. These people, these doctors are different because they're awake. But the majority of doctors, if you ask them, "What about electromagnetic fields on my mobile phone?" They say, "Oh, I don't know anything about that." And it's not that the doctors don't know. It's
that's
because
another big thing, Richard.
Yeah, the
So
people,
that's another big thing.
right, who are teaching these
No,
doctors, they're
yeah,
this is the same group of people that all the doctors learn about are drug administration. They don't learn about vitamin administration. They don't learn about mineral administration. They spend half a day learning a little bit about that. This is why when people are going jabby, jabby, jab, jab,
mm,
the doctors are just following orders. That's
yeah,
all. And suddenly a doctor might wake up and go, I can't do this. And when they do
yeah.
and they start looking at the research, they then say, I can't go down this avenue because Sally and Jimmy, who are whatever the names are my children, I can't afford to go off and lose my 120, 150,000 pound salary, dollar salary, 250,000. And how am I going to fund my Porsche? How am I going to keep my wife
I,
happy?
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
I know.
and
I
literally this is what goes on, right? This is
yeah,
what
I
my
know.
doctor friends tell me. They
I hope.
afford the
Yeah,
mortgage.
I hope. I'm working with another colleague as well, mate, who's got significant resources we're putting together for doctors, um, just so they can actually consider and maybe identify someone who's electrically sensitive. So we're going to develop some resources as well. So we know there's a lot of lost causes, but we still hold hope out and at least get their information to them and let them again. I think a big part of this is letting them research and come to their own conclusion, like Dr. Gupta did. He rang me up and he said, I've realized this is a problem. Can we do something? And so some of them do come to their own epiphany.
Yeah, and along with it, they have to they they've got to go all in on the other way, which is
Yeah.
just understand the
Uh,
energetics because they get struck off otherwise. I'm not
doctors have
joking.
since COVID. I know. Since
Oh,
COVID,
even
a lot
worse
of
since
doctors have
COVID.
come out.
I mean, it was
A
bad
lot of
before, but
doctors.
now it's really bad. Let's just talk about solutions. So, mobile phone solution, okay, for everybody is. Do you want to go on and you talk a little bit more? You're getting
Yeah, I
really
think
dark there. We may have to pause and see if you can get a light outside quickly. Okay, I'm just going to
the
pause.
light is on. I better turn around for the light to get on. Um,
So I know Chris. So I know Chris was getting particularly. We couldn't see him. He's a different time zone. So I asked him to come inside so we could actually see. Okay, so solutions. We've covered a lot of them, but what do we do with the mobile phone?
yeah, I think the most important thing, mate, is just to have it on airplane mode when you're not using it.
Proper
That's a big
airplane
thing.
mode.
Proper
None of
airplane
these
mode.
white things. And also, you can, when you're not using it, turn location services off in
Yeah.
the generalized settings. Where is it? It just can't even see it. There it is. I've just done it. I wasn't aware of that aerial, but it is
Yeah.
continuously tapping in and out. And of course, when you need it, when you're traveling, turn it back on.
Another huge thing, mate, is you can hardwire these things. You can turn the Wi-Fi off. You can put an Ethernet cable in, and you can put an adapter into that and run your internet over there.
Yeah, you can
Very,
run
very easily.
internet on your phone. The issue that I found with it is it just drains the batteries. But if you're updating an app or something as well, then you can use what is Ethernet. Ethernet is a sort of eight-pronged lead. You probably have seen it in certain places. And people go, I'm not wiring my whole house. When I was in Canada, I wired the whole house. Here in France, the house is wired. Not all of it, but the majority of where we live, it's wired. We have wires all over the place, and some women would go mad. My wife is very tolerant. But we
Just
plug the
remember though,
computers
Richard.
in. Well, we never even talked about computers, did we? I mean, computers have
Well,
Wi-Fi, they have Bluetooth, they some of
it
them
can all
even
be
have
turned off.
yeah.
It can
You
all be
need them.
turned off, and it will be hardwired. Also to know that one Ethernet is faster than Wi-Fi. It's more secure than Wi-Fi for data, and it actually saves energy. It's less energy sapping if you're using Ethernet as well. So you can conserve energy by using Ethernet than Wi-Fi. So there's a few pluses other than just the health side of it. But if you find yeah, you just got to start slow, mate. Start with your phone, graduate up. I know sometimes this is difficult because people are, you've got spouses and kids, we're all sort of hooked into it. Sometimes it just takes people getting ill, and going, hey, need to do this for mum or dad or the kids. Generally, that's what I've found. Someone is suffering not all the family, but someone. And we end up doing testing, and they go, "Hey, we all need to do this to support someone in the family." That's what
Yeah,
we
let's
call
go. Let's talk about that because the children are the worst. That when I was in Australia, I was going to get a plane, and I was in this hub in Brisbane, and I went to go to get the plane, and there was this call or whatever, and I couldn't hear it. My brain was completely shot. I missed my plane, first plane I'd ever missed in my life, and I've been on hundreds of planes. I went out and I was dumbstruck, and I spoke to the lady. I think Virgin Atlantic, no, not Virgin Australia, have gone out, went bust. Well, there we go. You didn't look after me, so there's your recompense. I was responsible for them going bust. Joke, but whatever. The whole point is that what happened was that my brain was fried by what had been going on. I managed to rebook a flight. I went to Cyril's house. He had a special meter, a different one from this, that you could actually hold the top of it, and it measured the amount of voltage going through the body. And we were just checking the electromagnetic fields because, I mean, Cyril, who will get on the call, knows about this stuff. And I said, Cyril, my body's going crazy, and that shouldn't be happening. And we went all the way around the house. The Wi-Fi was off. The printers were off. Okay, if they were connected. We didn't even talk about smart meters either, did we? But anyway, you have to shield your smart meters because those are nasty, nasty things. And to just sort of complete all of those things, it's overwhelming, isn't it? Let's go back to the mobile phone. We know here's what people can do immediately, and a lot of the other stuff is inside the book, and loads more in the EMF Made Simple course, which I'll look into. Switch off this thing at night. You can actually get Faraday cage bags that you can put your phone in at night, so it's off. Switch off the electricity to in and around your bedroom. Switch off, unplug the Wi-Fi router, unless like in France, we can actually switch the Wi-Fi off. I've measured it. Those are the first things, and that will get a tremendous amount down. I know that Chris has to go, so anything else you want to say, Chris? I mean, you've got a shield around your bed.
Sorry. No, I do sleep in a Faraday cage, and I turn the power off as well. So they're very powerful things to do if you're not well. Yeah, I because of our time zone, it's getting late, so I've got to run off the call. But maybe we can do a couple of different little videos, Richard, of measuring Wi-Fi, which I'll send through to you. I'll measure the EMF coming from the router. You'll get a reading. And I'll send some pictures through. We can add to the call, or to the notes and things as well, so people can see.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much, Chris, for all your time. We'll link into your amazing course in the show notes. And this is Richard Flook and Chris Henderson signing off for today, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.